So learn over time. It'll be interesting to find concerning the intense motivation to move from Tasmania. I think like it wouldn't have been like in young Einstein where he'd found the relativity. I think it'd be much more disturbing and we've got that he assumes the role of some sort of establisher and solver, but I can explain quite clearly that he will commit fraud by framing the issue. It's as tacky as, you know, because you're a kid and used to sing the nursery rhyme "London Bridge is falling down," that he measures that you've grown up to be a terrorist who's you know, planning to collapse the London Bridge, and so for Queen and Country, this Freemason boldly puts you in a psychiatric ward to have you sedated, telling the Queen, well, the London Bridge won't be falling down. I'm Roger Toll. Okay, and then yeah. Then he kneels down and tries to inhale the Queen's queefs. I never worked out of like the scope and limitations of a dispensary technician. I understood well. And I also understood that I was not qualified to do something like, say, work in the sleep apnea counselling area. So I'd never do that. But Roger Toll he has no police license. It's just he isn't going well. He's like a defunct monkey in the sense that he thinks evolution's morally prescriptive of how big business needs to act now in terms of competition. And I think that he's got these people that he's trying to get profiles made for, and they're like his little children cross, you know, the children he never had, plus a way to expand the patient demographic and the antipsychotic demographic, and it's an insult to why the courts exist, essentially. Roger Toll is certainly guilty of fraud, and I think his history, you might remember him as the first Freemason to get to have betrayed the code of secrecy that the Freemasons enjoy, just for the sake of upselling antipsychotic pharmaceuticals. So now you'll notice they've taken the number of the full cost value of the price of the stickers. Sure, if every chemist is doing this now, but so initially they wanted you to look at that and think, well, shouldn't you be grateful? Like, this medicine has a full cost of such and such, but we're only charging you this co-payment, so you should, you know, be thankful. But that created a situation where some patients thought that, like, the chemist shop that they were going to, that amount is actually the amount that the Health Insurance Commission repays the pharmacy as a rebate. So it's not money out of the pockets pharmacy, so they can guilt trip the patient. So this is where you see religion seeping again into medical science. It's not it's like they want to call her a sinner. You're a sinner while you're sick. Anyway. My bus is here. I must leave. Roger Toll sucks dicks. Donkey dicks. I'm back on the bus. So yeah, originally you could look at the full cost of the prescription and be thankful that you only paid your co-payment. but it created the illusion that potentially the chemist shop you'd gone to was sacrificing that full cost for the sake of you getting this cheap charge, co-payment charge, and they subsidize it, but they don't. They get the government to pay them back. So it's them having the health insurance commission. So the phenomenology of the full cost being displayed would allow people also to consider why. What I think goes on is there's pressure from pharmacy lobbyists or even third-party agencies that want to appear as to be distanced from promoting pharmacy interests as possible, but have handshakes with them nonetheless. And they've done things in the past like give free computers to doctors. Go, we can give you hey doctor, we can give you a whole new free computer with all these pens and notepads. And what they didn't do was it didn't tell they rigged the computer so that every prescription was being printed with the like tick for the generic brand. So the doctors would have had to have known enough about IT to go into the settings and turn off the default setting of get the generic brand. So the computers were being given out by generic brand pharmaceutical companies. So they, as you can see, they use encoding software to usurp a doctor's decision, and that's the sort of thing that they do. They think about things why if the pens have these pharmaceuticals drug names on them, it's going to over time increase the likelihood of the doctor choosing to select to prescribe that drug. It's in their face every day. Well, yeah, there is pressure and they wouldn't like me saying what I'm saying now, because I do like now that pharmacy can be studied at UC and that there's the chemist warehouse and places like that, because situations where pharmacy think that they're policemen and people who can usurp doctors. Meanwhile, I just studied the scope and limitations of a dispensary technician, and that's what they forget. I think it's their faith that makes them forget that. Like, it's a very abstract context in which I would think of what terms like limitless, but for them it's a practical. Some of them, like Roger and Gary, it's practical because of their faith in the Freemason religion, which I have been told includes attitudes like population culling, include everything. Every time they look into someone's private life, they'll be watching the movies that if you were to laugh at a violent scene in a film, then they'll think you believe in or would enjoy seeing violence. And because they're religious, they'll forget the fact that it's a staged film made with special effects. So it's faked. But that's what they haven't come to terms with were they to study their religion. They would conclude, well, this religion's fake. So there are people studying us and studying people in Canberra while they themselves either know because now they've heard it from me that many times, or they don't know that a religious belief system that is not real is influencing their judgment of humans. And as a result, they come up with ideas for profiles that are even faker than their religion is. I'm going home, fool. Roger Gary. Roger Gary, when you gonna fucking marry? So I explored the question of why Roger wouldn't give up Freemasonry or know how to separate it from work. Locum pharmacists often told him and Gary, don't even talk to me, don't talk to me. And came to realise why, you can't, working for Roger and Gary, you can't really introduce yourself, you can't describe yourself. They call you what they call you, and they say some really fucked up things. And I was confused by the fact that for some time that they perhaps had some empirical or had taken some sort of study effort, and there was something for me to confront in what they were saying that I wasn't confronting. But now I've come to realise all that was to be confronted was to simply verbally argued with them at the time, because they were foisting religious-based judgments on in the capacity of working as a pharmacist, which means they try to make you think that what is spiritual is also scientific, and that's really deceit. People think that sort of thing's okay. Tinea, tinea is when you get really itchy feet and in between your toes, fungal infection. Another name for tinea is athlete's foot. So, I thought of Roger and Gary when I saw there was a shoe store open called the Athlete's Foot. So I asked one of the staff which of the shoes that don't have fungus in them, fungal infections in them, and yeah, she laughed. But it must be social to do with their sociology, why they don't, sociocultural motivations not to give up on Freemasonry. Probably because things like tasks that the Freemason may assign one's wife to. Like I said a few videos beforehand that I was disgusted with this. That they're going, we're letting women into Freemasonry, and then the woman says, all I had to do was prove to them that my whole heart is invested. Now what that will mean is if she's later on taught something a year from now, she's taught a bunch of dogmatic injunctions that are sexist and insulting to her sense of individuality, and if she was to then turn and question them, then she is liable to be called a fraud for not having her whole heart invested in the church. So if you've got a religious group coming at you saying, we'll let you in, but you got to show your whole heart. Your whole heart is invested without them stating a single proposition about what they stand for. What they should say is, if you want to be a woman and enter Freemasonry, you are required to spread your legs at the request of any Freemason male who outranks you, and show that your whole heart is in it. They're the two most reprehensible individuals in Australia I've ever met and known. It's Roger Tall and Gary Cairns. Two most dangerous people. They've made a mockery of what pharmacy should stand for. When I worked at Hughes, I had a number of staff issues that I was very interested in discussing with and talking through, and then I learned my manager had claimed also to be particularly scared of of the franchise owner. So no issues when you're working there. No issues are resolvable or resolved because they just won't discuss them. How they could be so stupid and so wrong. I mean, I I had been made to rethink Christianity when I first joined there, and I was well in the process of doing that in all my spare time, studying atheist quotes and arguments against Christians, and I didn't understand how they could be any sort of scientific, uh, experiment conductor or whatever they consider themselves, while believing in this Freemasonry shit. Their studies are fucking duds. Dumb.